Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, Michael here from Oilers Live, back with another Tuesday episode of Oilers Live. I'm going solo tonight. Going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about stuff that's happening around the league. Just kind of fill a spot tonight because we have next week, we've got Mike Comito, who's got a new book coming out. And so I'm going to have him on the show. And then we're getting close to Oilers hockey season. And so, I expect a lot more to happen over the next couple of weeks. Should be a lot of fun. There's something exciting in the works, which I think I can announce tonight. As you've been watching and maybe seeing on Twitter and elsewhere, we've been referring to the Heavy Hockey Network. So it's something that a long time ago I had a domain or a podcast I was doing Heavy Hockey. And I've decided to rebrand somewhat, and I will do the podcast solely under Oilers Live, and I'll continue to do Tuesday live streams throughout the season. And then the Heavy Hockey Network is going to be home to, right now, Straight Off the Pipe podcast, as well as the 99 Forever podcast, and the live streams. We've got some articles coming out and a few other things. There's going to be a new website coming out and some heavy hockey gear as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. So let's talk about a few things just to kind of get them out of the way. Number one is, and I gave a shout out on Twitter today. If you're on Twitter, go to @OilersLive. But more importantly, our friend Tara is back at EC Oilers Gal. So give her a follow on Twitter. She's a great follow. She lives out here my way in Halifax area. And so she's a great follow and lots of fun. Lots of great pictures from the East Coast for Tara. So that's always good. Not really much happening for Oilers news right now. The big thing, I think, as everybody knows, is the Yamamoto potential signing and what's not happening there, I guess, right now. And of course, the comparables and where he should get and what he should get. And it's really kind of a tough situation for the Oilers, as most of you know. I mean, here's a guy that, had one really spectacular season, I think, obviously. Well, I mean, there's not an Oiler fan out there that wouldn't think he had a spectacular season. He did great. And then he came back with, last season with not the best of seasons, but, look, I think if you look at the way he played about what you could expect. I'm not a believer in the sophomore slump, so I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think some of it had to do with, consistency in terms of, just slotting him in the lineup and who and how he's playing, how he's being played. I think he really benefited from, when Connor Mcdavid, obviously when he went out 2 seasons ago with the injury, and then, I think he benefited from the time and the requirement for him to fit in, and I think he, if all goes as planned, right, with Hyman and Puljujarvi back for another season, I really think we should see that Yamamoto, Draisaitl, Nuge line consistently throughout the season, and I think he'll be back to form. It's still a big bet, and when you have a bet like that, and you've got comparables asking for $6 million a season, that's a tough one, and I think the Oilers are in a tough position. But they could end up, Yamamoto if he does something like Nurse did, right? And the Oilers got a deal on Nurse for a couple of seasons, and you bring Yamamoto back. Look, on a bit of a bridge, which is what I think they'll do. Has the downside, though, of in a couple of seasons really turning out to be this monster of a contract, and I don't know that we've got a lot of space. for that in a couple of seasons, given some of the long-term contracts that we've had and a few other things. So I wanted to talk, we'll talk Yamamoto there. Olympics coming up, of course, everybody knows, the Oilers have a number of players that we think should be legitimate Olympians, right? Obviously, Connor McDavid, for sure, that's going to be exciting. I've got on my back wall, and I don't think you can see it right now, but I've got a sign. Yeah, it's right there. I can see it in the picture. I think that I've got this signed McKinnon framed thing, and to see McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid all out there playing. I don't think most Oilers fans, there's some debate as to, well, I wouldn't even say there was debate at NHL on Twitter, put who should wear the C for Canada. Is it Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby? I think even most Oilers fans would agree that that's a Sidney Crosby thing. He's earned the right, and he's still a premier elite hockey player in this league, and is outstanding, and one of the best leaders in the game. And look, I love watching Crosby play. Can't get enough of watching him play. And he just, he knows when to turn it on at the right times, and he's a definite leader. And I think, he's earned that right. And this would be Connor McDavid's first Olympics. So, you know what? I think he'd be happy to set that aside for Crosby. Not to mention, you heard Connor McDavid in his interview he did with Gretzky talking about lining up against Sidney Crosby, and Connor McDavid obviously idolized Crosby like any sane hockey player did if they watched Crosby growing up. So, there's no, in my mind at least, no real debate in terms of who would get the C in that case, and that's the case with the Oilers, with the Canadian Hockey Club, the Hockey Canada, who gets the C in any Olympics. There's so many leaders; they're all captains on their team. You just got to take the guy that's been there and done that, and Crosby's definitely that guy. Thanks for tuning in, Dash. I've got Dash there go back to the Yamo talk there. He says Yamo's been inconsistent and injury prone, as well as a complimentary player at best. Yeah, look, let's go back to this Yamamoto discussion. I think Yamamoto is definitely a complimentary player. He's not the kind of guy that drives line, right? He's got to play on a line with a Draisaitl or a Nugent Hopkins. He's definitely not. I think the difference, say, between him and Nugent Hopkins is, I'm comfortable with Nugent Hopkins being the leader on a line, right? And we're talking about leadership right now. That's a good point. And so what's that worth, right? I don't think we could ever expect that from Yamamoto, right? Is that he'll be, the definitive leader on that, on a line. He's one hell of a player. He gets out there, he mucks it up. Look, he plays about 10 times bigger than he is. He's my type of player. I really love watching him, but I think the Oilers are in a bad situation with him. I think they've got to do what they've got to do, and it's looking more and more like a bridge type of deal. So we go. Let's go around to some of the hot headlines around the league or around the Oilers with the mainstream media today. A guy I've had on the podcast and on the live stream before, Low Tide's got a good article today on The Athletic, which you can find. It was a few days back. What should the Oilers expect from Cody Sisi in his first season? And I think, Cody Sisi's kind of in a unique situation, right? Because just like Adam Larsson was, in fact, the irony of it all is Cody Cici's coming in to replace Adam Larsson, and he's not likely to fill the role 100%. Just like people expected Adam Larsson to be a substitute, not a substitute, but perform as well, if not better, than Taylor Hall did in terms of how the team performs. And so they're players that you can't compare for various different reasons. But Cody Sisi, I don't think we understand who we're actually going to get, right? And depending on who you talk to or who you listen to, right? I mean, he's had different types of seasons everywhere he's gone, right? I think we need to have a little bit of an open mind as fans with Cody Sisi. I think that I think there's a good opportunity that we may be surprised by his play. There's a lot of discussion with both him and Keith, right, in terms of who they were playing against, who they were playing with, and my expectation would be that we'll see those two playing together. And look, if you can get out of Darnell Nurse what we think we can get out of him, right, then I think that what you can expect is that those, much like you see in a batting order, right, you can expect that, Sisi and Keith, can clean up the mess, right? Like they can clean up the remainder of everything that needs to be done and have, a good season on the back end. I think that, and thanks, Dash. I mean, yeah, Nurse may play 28 minutes a night. He might be like Pronger, right? I think that if you can shelter that bottom four by having a really good top end D, a lot of times those guys can overperform or perform ahead of expectations, which we've seen, with a lot of teams. And I think Cody Sisi is going to be no different. I'm not expecting huge things from them. I just don't think that the defense is necessarily, in dire straits, like some fans are tending to think. I think we're not as great as we would be, but the flip side to that is you've got Duncan Keith, who I think can give a really good first pass. You've got Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse, who have both, not just Darnell Nurse's defensive capability, but he's got some offensive capability, which we saw last year and any year, really. I mean, it was just a matter of him, taking that next level. And then we're going to see, likely, at least I hope, Evan Bouchard, play that third pairing D and get some minutes and potentially earn some extra minutes down the stretch. This has got to be a team that really sort of plays defense by playing offense. And we all know that. And so, look, if you get a chance, it's a good article by Low Tide. It's on The Athletic if you're a subscriber. And I think Low Tide posts some of his own articles on his own site. So that's a good one. There's another article if you go down to tsn.ca by Yost, who, I'm picking out all the analytics guys right now. But talking about top centers in the league. We, the one thing in preparing for tonight's solo shot here tonight was, I wanted to kind of get an idea of what was around the league and what people were thinking, and it kind of got me a little bit excited again in the Oilers. This year's edition of the Oilers. I think if you can get through, if you can get through the season and you can do really well, and I think we're going to see some pretty amazing offensive capabilities from this team. And on Yost's article, which he titles "Grading the Centers on Canada's NHL Teams," right? He's got the Oilers obviously on top with an A. And and of course, we're going to see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl center those top two lines. I mean, if you're looking at this team, just from an offensive perspective, even on the back end and the ability to get the puck out of the zone, and you want them to play tough enough in the D zone that the puck's not sitting in there the whole game, and they can just get it out of the zone. we're in for an offensive treat. And this could be, an even bigger year than what we'd expect from those guys on the top end. Yost has, as I said, the Oilers with an A grade in the centers. Next up are Toronto and the Canucks with a B plus. So you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl centering what is the first couple lines, and then you've probably got Derek Ryan, and then he's got Kyle Turris centering the fourth line, but. I mean, look, there's options, right? And we're going to see in camp, you've got the potential for Ryan McLeod. I don't think Dylan Holloway is going to end up playing unless if he does something super special in camp. But he could easily. Dash, I should have just had you on the show. Thanks for all the commentary. If you go on Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, happy to get. I see all your comments. Would love to respond tonight. I'm only going to do about another 10 more minutes. I just wanted to make sure that I'm keeping my Tuesdays going. As I said, next week I've got Mike Comito. We're going to talk about his new book, and he's of course been around the league. As a reporter in various other different capacities for a number of years now. So if you get a chance, you can tune in next week. His book is called Hockey 365, and I know that just about everybody's read it. It's a second volume. It's a lot of hockey history, a lot of great stories. Anyway, it's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about some of his experiences and some of the things going around the league. So I just kind of want to get some of these other guests out of the way before we get into Oilers season, which is not too far away. So anyway, back to the Oilers centers. I mean, we've got, these guys down the line. I think from a center position, we're going to be all right. And, this is probably the best offensively that I think the Oilers have looked in a very long time, and actually pretty solid offensively, right? Like with a little bit of depth. I think that Derek Ryan, we can expect more out of him than people are maybe expecting. I really like that signing. I think, there's somebody said the other day, and I don't want to call anybody out, but I think it's a bit of a hot take to think that this team got any worse. Right? And somebody was trying to argue that. I think actually a few people were trying to argue that. And, here's the deal is the financials of this team are awful. I think if you look at Holland's ability to make a deal on Duncan Keith, in my mind, I'm not Ken Holland, obviously, but, his ability to make a deal didn't exist. And he took on extra salary for something that somebody we saw a couple of guys get bought out just right after that. I think most of the hockey world was a little bit shocked by the Duncan Keith trade. Also, we lost a player with I think a lot of upside in Caleb Jones, and then of course Bear going away. It was two sort of really good prospectee, and we're taking on this large contract in Duncan Keith. And then there's the Zach Hyman. It's really sort of it's a bet. It's a bet, on somebody that not very many people in the league have a bad thing to say about the kid, Zach Hyman, but it's still a bet, and it's a long-term bet. And the reality is we've seen in this league so many of these long-term contracts just go down the wrong way, and so I think at the end of the day, right? Like what Holland has done is he's created a team that at least for the immediate season is, I think, significantly better. At least offensively significantly better. I think maybe we're even on defense, but we really needed to get better on defense. And then I think the other, downside to this team is, of course, in the goaltending situation, right? And so, look, I mean, who would have thought, and I'm not comparing Mike Smith to Fleury, but who would have thought Fleury would come and win the Vezina last year? So, your Dash, on Facebook says Holland is banking and gambling on a lot of scratch tickets, value deals to pay off while he spends foolishly otherwise. I think that's exactly the way it is, except I think the immediate return is really good. It's like, playing a scratch ticket, but you're guaranteed to get your money back. And then, you may end up, never winning again for like the next 10 years. There's a lot of good things about this team. I think it's better than it has been in prior years, but I do think that Ken Holland needs to show that he can make a deal work. And look, we won't know until trade deadline, right? That's kind of. At first, I was pretty upset with Holland. I'll be honest. I thought, like, I do my best to be a level-headed fan, and I'm a fan. I do my very best. I'm not the first guy on the fire Ken Holland bandwagon, or would be. I wasn't even the first guy on the fire Chiarelli bandwagon, and in fact, I was one of the last ones to get there because I wanted to give them all the benefit of the doubt. Right? I thought there were certain instances, but I've grown to really have a strong distaste for Chiarelli. I'm hoping I don't get there with Ken Holland, but. Look, this team needs. I like the philosophy behind Ken Holland, but this team really needs, a guy that knows how to make a deal, right? Like Stevie Y or a Wilson, or somebody who can like get just a stellar deal for the club. And I know players playing in Edmonton, that's always going to be a bit of a problem, right? There's this stigma, at least, and I think there's been lots of polls and everything made out of it that Edmonton's not on the top place for players to play. But when you got an opportunity to play with Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Darnell Nurse, like four guys that are just outstanding players. I think we got a chance that we should be able to make a couple deals, right? This team is exciting, and there's a good opportunity. We should be able to make a couple deals. These guys don't live in the cities anymore, right? They come there, they play a couple seasons, and then they move on. And so, and they go back home. Like, does Connor McDavid even stay in Edmonton over the year? And no, I don't think he does. So, like, it's not a big deal, right? They come here, they play, they've got a nice place. They get a lot of different things. They play at a beautiful arena. We need a GM, and I'm going to give Holland the benefit of the doubt right now, but we need a GM that can make a deal. And I think where I'm going to really wait and save my grade on his performance is going to be at the trade deadline. We're going to see where this team's at. And then, if he can pull off something stellar at the trade deadline. And I think given, the contracts that he's done and what he's done to date, he's got to do something then and there. And it's got to be like a go for the cup sort of scenario this year and next. And, if it's not, I think guys, finally, I think that's where... the Toronto media can have their heyday and say, look, Connor's not going to want to be around any longer, right? So we need a guy that's going to make that deal. But at the same time, I mean, we've heard some rumor that Connor McDavid had a little bit of a say in the Duncan Keith thing. So anyway, that's my thought. Look, lots of good things happening around the league. The Olympics are coming up this year. Let's hope that all the COVID stuff stays away and we can get out there double vaxxed into an arena and get a chance to watch some hockey. I got season tickets to Halifax Moosehead, so I'm going to get out and watch a little bit of the Q. watch some of those players, hopefully get a chance to talk about them in the league. Of course, we'll be back in Edmonton, right, for Oilerslive Cup, which we may, have a different change of the branding a little bit. We're going to do some, look and make sure we'll probably continue to do it for Heart and Stroke Foundation. We might expand the Oilerslive Cup to be a 4-team tournament, but it'll be we're always going to do it where the last game's held on a game night, and then we'll get out and watch the Oilers play whoever. I always like to make it out there for a Battle of Alberta. I'll definitely be out for a couple of games this year, so we're going to do that. That's about it. I want to say, thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. It's been great. It's been, a crazy week for myself, as many of you know. And, so just, I just want to say, thanks to everybody for the support. I really, really sort of love getting out here every week. I've enjoyed this Tuesday night thing, and even though I didn't have a guest lined up for tonight, I wanted to get out and talk to you guys and just talk and say some of my thoughts around the game and the Oilers and my thoughts. Only if, because, I don't often give my own opinions on everything. I'm usually asking my guests and having a good time that way. So happy to provide once in a while my own online and solo version of what I think is going on. Outside of that, stay tuned. A new website should be up within either this week or next week. And East Coast Oilers gal Tara says, "What? You're a Moosehead season ticket holder?" You better believe I am. I've got sweet seats too. So if you're down in Halifax, let me know. I've got 4 nice seats, right about 15 rows up near the red line. So absolutely perfect. Be watching some Q hockey, and that'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, fun show. As always, I enjoy doing this and interacting with you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and Dash, thanks for all the comments. I didn't get to all of them, but next time I'm going to go solo. Maybe I'll just get you on with me. Jacqueline, Tara, the rest of you, all thanks for tuning in, and have a great night.